Good evening, everyone. Come to you today from this blank void. Spacious. So much room. With the Batman coming out, I thought it might be an interesting thing to kind of go back and really look at Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy. Kind of see what it did well, see what it did not so well, and what kind of held up. Going through it all, we have to start at where Batman begins.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Yeah, I went there. So Batman Begins is obviously, it is a origin story. It is where it all begins. Going back and revisiting it, it is so interesting kind of seeing how traditional of an origin story this still feels, even with Christopher Nolan helming it. There's still plenty of Christopher Nolan style into it. Although the one thing I will say visually is it's very brown. So much of it is so not like a sepia wash, but everything just looks brown going through. And when we get to Dark Knight, when we get to Dark Knight Rises, it's not that. So it's a weird way to start that. Christian Bale in this movie kind of does a weird angsty play on things. I think it does set it up nicely for him to kind of grow into this thing that I want him as a character wants to move forward to constantly seek out justice. I don't think I've watched Batman Begins in probably 15 years. But he's not doing his Batman voice in Batman Begins. I mean, it's here and there, but mostly he's just talking. And so it's interesting because I've also never watched all three of these movies back to back before. It's interesting watching his progression as Batman to get to the kind of more ludicrous Batman-y voice that he has in Dark Knight Rises, but he doesn't really have it here, and I kind of enjoy that. I think the hard thing about this overall, it's Christopher Nolan trying to do something traditional, and Christopher Nolan isn't really a traditional storyteller. It's very interesting watching him try to play the game. There's so many what now we would consider cheesy origin story moments. Get introduced to Christopher Nolan mainstay Michael Caine. Also, the progression of Alfred is really interesting to watch because here he's really just kind of figuring out who Bruce Wayne has become. I think another really great thing that this movie really did, though, this is kind of the first time that we really saw a real gritty, realistic what these type of villains would be and not just gimmicks. Scarecrow, he can be real scary and he has a plan and he knows how to do it, and Cillian Murphy's a creepy motherfucker. So Liam Neeson is always Liam Neeson, man. You can throw Liam Neeson in anything that's gonna be more solid. The real big problem in this movie, is Katie Holmes. Yike on bike. Rewatching it, she's not as bad as I remember, but man, Katie Holmes is doing some half smiles. Doing some smirking. I don't know what noise that was, but it's fine. I'm glad that she got replaced. Ultimately, on this rewatch, on Letterboxd, I gave it 3.5 stars. I think it is a weird halfway between two worlds movie, halfway between a traditional comic book adaptation movie and an actual Christopher Nolan movie. Let's just go to The Dark Knight. This is really Christopher Nolan getting a blank check to do whatever he wants, and it pays off. It holds up, man. It is great. I can't even good storytelling, good story in general, good direction, great acting. Christian Bale in this movie starts to get his little I'm Batman, his little rasp voice in there. That was not a good example, but you know what I mean. Michael Caine is kind of starting to really be a voice of reason now for Bruce, which is kind of, again, you kind of saw his traditional sidekick Alfred thing, but now he's getting more hands-on. He's giving advice. He's well, I'm gonna tell you, yeah, what did you think was gonna happen? This Joker motherfucker gonna destroy the world, bitch. Maggie Gyllenhaal is great. She gotta die though. Sorry, girl. Aaron Eckhart, great casting. I think a lot of people kind of griped that Two-Face didn't get more screen time, but I think it was a casualty of what the story needed to be. and the effect that it would have going into the next movie, he didn't need to be in this any more than he was. I thought, he did a fantastic job playing the duality. Super charming, but he has a dark side. And Heath Ledger, man. Look, there's literally nothing to say about Heath Ledger's performance that hasn't already been said. It's it. Dream roles, man, dream roles. Within the overall story arc of this trilogy, it's really interesting to see that this one doesn't fully fit in. Both Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises are so heavy laden in very similar themes and story arcs. Dark Knight doesn't necessarily go with the other two. Does it have its flaws? Sure. The conversation of the Joker saying that he doesn't plan anything, that's all he does the entire movie is plan everything. This chair is so squeaky. Oh, now it's not making noise, of course. Dark Knight is one of my favorite movies of all time. So sure, maybe I'm biased. Come at me. I give it my 5 shots. That's all I have to say about that. Coming into Dark Knight Rises, this is probably a movie I haven't seen in many years. Dark Knight Rises is good. It is good. There's just so much story that Christopher Nolan tries to pack into this last final film. And I don't think he succeeds all the way in telling all of the individual parts of the story. Dark Knight Rises picks up 8 years after The Dark Knight. Batman's been gone. Bruce has become a recluse. Recluse on the loose. Yikes. Jesus. Of course, Bane comes in and just fucks shit up. Tom Hardy, I would say this is an underrated performance. I think Tom Hardy is really great in this role, and especially rewatching it. Did he need to do the voice? Oh, you think the darkness is alright? No, he didn't need to do that, but he went hard. Sometimes you go hard. Go hard or go home. Anne Hathaway showing up as Selena Kyle. She's fine. She's fine. But she's Anne Hathaway. To round out this cast, these bad guys is Marion Cotillard, hope I said that right, as Talia al Ghul. Spoilies, if you haven't seen these movies. Throughout the movie, her alter ego has this romance with Bruce. I think the romance with Batman and Catwoman, it does play a nice juxtaposition, but I don't think either is developed enough. I think honestly, it would have been super beneficial for this if it had been split up into 2 parts. And I never say that because I hate that shit, but this kind of comes back to the whole conclusion of what you leave behind, what you represent, what you want your legacy to be. Overall, the trilogy ends it well. I think it obviously jumps the shark at the end, nukes the fridge, or in this case, the Batwing, and nukes the Batwing. And then we suddenly see him in Italy, but is it Alfred's imagination? Maybe, maybe not, we don't know. I think it's just a little too literal for us to see it. I think if we would have just kept the shot on Alfred's face and he just he catches someone and he just gives this big smile, I think that's enough to allude, and you can decipher what you want. I'm giving it a 3.5 shots overall, but I do think it's interesting really examining that compared to the Batman. Would we have gotten this new take on the Batman had Christopher Nolan not pushed for this darker, more realistic, gritty realm? Dark Knight and Batman Begins is comic book movies is serious art, so you have to give it credit to that. I really enjoyed my time watching them, and and I think it's interesting to compare. What's your favorite Batman movie? Let me know, baby.